Hello everyone, welcome back to Vikas Biology. So in previous video we discussed about the concept of RNA, isn't it? So RNA, the chemical nature of RNA, then types of RNA. So like genetic RNA, then non-genetic RNA. So and in that, so we completed about the structure of mRNA, isn't it? That is the messenger RNA. Okay, so in this video, so I'm going to explain about the structure of the next important type of RNA, that is what is called as tRNA. Okay, see here the tRNA, that where the T stands for transfer. This is the transfer RNA. This is what is called as the transfer RNA. Okay, so where mainly it is named as transfer RNA because it will transfer the amino acids. It will carry the amino acids which are present in the cytoplasm to the site of protein synthesis. So where protein synthesis takes place, protein synthesis that also takes place in cytoplasm, and tRNA, you know that protein synthesis where there is an assemblage of ribosomes over an mRNA. Along with that, the tRNA molecule will carry the corresponding amino acids. ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂಥ amino acid na tRNA ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, carry ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. So those amino acids which are also found in the cytoplasm. Okay. So as it transfers the amino acids to the protein machinery, tRNA is named as the transfer RNA. Okay. So among all types of RNA which are found inside the cell, tRNA that contributes around 10 to 15% of total RNA is found inside the cell, and it is also produced or synthesized by DNA and get transported to cytoplasm. So and it comprises about 10 to 15% of the total RNA. Okay, so it was first discovered, tRNA was first discovered by Hoagland and Zemechnik. Was first discovered by Hoagland and Zemechnik. Paul Hoagland and Zemechnik, they first discovered the tRNA, and later on the detailed structure of tRNA that was given by Robert Hawley. Robert Hawley, who gave the detailed structure of tRNA, and that tRNA is what is called as alanine tRNA. Alanine tRNA. Okay. So Robert Hawley, who gave the detailed structure of alanine tRNA. So where it was discovered by Hoagland and Zemechnik, and where he studied the structure of alanine tRNA that was taken out from the yeast cells or in the yeast cells. Okay, for that he awarded the Nobel Prize in 1968 along with H.G. Khorana and Nirenberg. So where Robert Hawley, who awarded the Nobel Prize, so their contribution is different, like elucidation of genetic code. Okay, that is by H.G. Khorana and the Nirenberg. The properties of genetic code, so that is given by these two people, H.G. Khorana and the Nirenberg. So along with these people, Robert Hawley got the Nobel Prize in 1968 for the discovery of structure of alanine tRNA. See, it's named alanine because you know that there are 20 different amino acids which are found in proteins. Okay, so there are 20 different types of amino acids which are found in almost all the proteins. Okay, and they are found inside the cytoplasm. And for these 20 different amino acids, there are 20 different tRNA molecules will be there. And those tRNA molecules which specifically carry that particular type of amino acid. Okay, so that's why this tRNA here it is named as alanine tRNA, and there will be another tRNA for another amino acid like methionine, and leucine carrying tRNA is different, isoleucine carrying tRNA is different, tryptophan carrying tRNA is different, like that. So there are 20 different tRNA molecules for 20 different amino acids. So where among that the alanine tRNA structure that was studied by Robert Hawley, and this is the most common structure for almost all the tRNA, and where this structure of tRNA that resembles the structure of a trifoliate leaf of a clover plant, where it resembles the structure of a trifoliate leaf of a clover plant. That's why the tRNA model is popularly known as clover leaf model of tRNA. The model of tRNA is popularly called as clover leaf model of tRNA. Okay, so where as it resembles the trifoliate leaf of a clover plant. You know what is trifoliate leaf? So where it is having a petiolar structure, a petiole, and where it bear the 3 leaflets like this. Okay, so palmately compound leaves. So where they are having the 3 leaflets like this, palmately compound leaves, trifoliate like this. Okay, similar to this one, the tRNA is also having the similar structure. So like the 3 lobes, how this is just like a petiole, and this is the one lobe, and this is another lobe, and this is the third lobe. Okay, like this. So see here, there is a similarity, the structural similarity. So as it resembles the clover leaf, so where the tRNA model, that is popularly known as clover leaf model of tRNA. Okay, see a tRNA molecule, so where that forms the helix-like structure, so it means like a double-stranded like structure or helix-like structure similar to DNA. That is mainly because of the presence of almost equal amount of purines and pyrimidines. Okay, so where it is almost equal to 1. So you have heard about the Chargaff's rule, isn't it? So that applies in DNA. The Chargaff's rule applies in DNA. So as it is a double-stranded molecule, both the strands are complementary to each other. See here, as there are some loops which are produced in the helical-like structure or loops which are produced in the tRNA, so that is because of almost the equal proposition or composition of the purines and the pyrimidines. And this is the smallest among all RNAs. So where this nearly consists of about 73 to 93 bases. It is about the length of 73 to 93 bases, and this also runs just like the other RNAs like 3' to 5'. Okay, so the direction is 3' end and the 5' end. So just look into the rough structure of a tRNA molecule. So where the tRNA, as I said, it runs in 3' to 5' direction. Okay, it's just like this. Okay, so there are 3 lobes or loops can be seen in tRNA. Okay, the 3 lobes or the loops are like this. Okay, so this is the first, this is one loop, this is the other loop, and this one is the next loop. Okay, so these are the 3 loops which are found, and there is another small curvature, this is present here, and this is what is called as a variable arm. This is regarded as the variable arm. So where the 3 loops can be seen here. Okay, so this is the structure. See, this tRNA consists of the 3' end and the 5' end. So whereas the 3' end, that consists of CCA. So the unpaired bases which are found here in the 3' end, that is what is called as CCA. And this is the first loop, that is what is called as BHU loop. This is the first, named as BHU loop. And this is the second, what is called as anti-codon loop. And whereas this is the third, and this is what is called as T-psi-C loop. Okay, this is T-psi-C loop. So whereas the 5' end, as usual, it consists of phosphate, whereas the 3' end, that ends with the OH. Okay, and the 3' end, that always ends with the unpaired bases. For example, like CCA. So where this region of tRNA, this is the amino acid binding site. So it is named such mainly because the amino acid get attaches to the 3' end of the tRNA. So this is the amino acid binding site. So it will carry the amino acid at this site. Okay. Then the DHU loop. So where it consists of a base, some unusual bases which are found in the tRNA, like dihydrouridine. So this is the base which are found. DHU stands for dihydrouridine. So where this is what is called amino acyl synthase or synthetase group. Okay, amino acyl synthetase end. This is what is called as the DHU loop end, is what is regarded as amino acyl synthetase end. And see here, this anticodon loop of the tRNA, the second one, the anticodon loop of tRNA, see this, that will reads the codons which are found on the mRNA. Andre, the anticodon end of the mRNA, that is complementary to the codons which are found on the mRNA. Suppose if the mRNA carrying the codons like UUU, codes for phenylalanine, an amino acid called as phenylalanine. If an mRNA is having the codons like this UUU, see the group of triplet codons are group of bases, 3 bases which are found on the mRNA. It is what is called as a codon. And the nucleotide bases which are found in the DNA, it is what is called as a code. Okay. So whereas it is found in the tRNA, that is what is called as anticodon. The 3 bases which are found in the mRNA, a group of 3 bases, this is what is called as a codon. Okay. This anticodon loop of tRNA, it is complementary to the codons which are found on the mRNA. Andre, suppose if an mRNA consists of UUU, what will be the sequence of codons on the anticodon loop? So this anticodon loop is complementary to the codons which are found on the mRNA. So then the anticodon will consist of A. You know that uracil, adenine is complementary to uracil, isn't it? So A, this is the anticodon that is found here. That is in the anticodon loop. Okay, so this is always complementary to the codons which are found on the mRNA. Then the next loop is T-cis-C loop. So this consists of another base, unusual base, what is called as pseudouridine. So this is the next the other base, unusual bases which are found in the tRNA, that is what is called pseudouridine, and this loop is the ribosome binding site. This is the ribosome binding loop, or this is the ribosome binding site of tRNA. Okay, so where it binds with the ribosome. Okay, and this is the smaller one. This is what is called as a variable arm. This is the variable arm. The small loop, that is what is called as a variable arm. Okay, so this is the structure of an alanine tRNA that was given by Robert Hawley. So where, remember, this also runs in 3' to 5' direction, where it consists of 3 loops. Okay, so one is DHU loop, where it consists of a base called as dihydrouridine, and the next one is what is called anticodon loop, and the next one is what is called as T-cis-C loop. Okay, so where this is responsible for amino acyl synthetase loop, this is what is called as, and the anticodon loop is complementary to the codons which are found on the mRNA. Okay, so then the T-cis-C loop, that is what is called as a ribosome binding loop. Okay, so this is the structure of tRNA. So where this is having some unusual bases like dihydrouridine, pseudouridine, inosine, then methyl guanosine. So these are some bases, some unusual bases which are found in the tRNA. Okay, so as it resembles the structure of the trifoliate leaf of the clover plant, the model of tRNA is what is called as clover leaf model of tRNA. Okay. Okay, then the next RNA is what is called as rRNA. See here, R stands for ribosome. This is known as ribosomal RNA. RNA is known as ribosomal RNA mainly because this RNA along with some protein fused together with some protein forming the structure what is called as ribosomes. Ribosomes are majorly composed of rRNAs. Okay, so whereas in eukaryotes we can see 50% plus 50-50 composition of rRNA and protein. Okay, 50-50 composition of rRNA and proteins can be seen in the ribosomes of eukaryotes. So whereas in case of the prokaryotes, for example like in E. coli, so where we can see 64% of rRNA, and remaining 36% of protein can be seen, the composition. So these are the major RNAs responsible for the synthesis or formation of the ribosomes. You know, ribosomes formation or production that takes place or begins within the nucleolus, isn't it? So that's why nucleolus is said to be the ribosome factories of the cell. Ribosome organizing center, that is the nucleolus, means it is found within the nucleus. So where the rRNA, that is also produced by DNA, this is a single stranded and highly coiled molecule. So majorly that forms the ribosome by fusing along with some proteins. In eukaryotes we can see 50-50 combination, 50% of rRNA and proteins together forming the ribosomes, whereas in prokaryotes like E. coli we can see 64% of rRNA and 36% of proteins can be seen. So this is a highly coiled RNA forming many loops. Okay, so there are some evidences that where rRNA can be catalyzes some of the biochemical reaction. Okay, so where it can act as an enzyme, there are evidences where it can act as enzyme, and such RNA molecule, especially the rRNA molecule, where it can act as an enzyme, enhances the metabolic rate and enhances the rate of biochemical reaction. So such RNAs are said to be ribozymes. remember the term ribozymes. Ribozymes are nothing but the RNA molecule, especially the ribosomal RNA or rRNA, so where that can act as a biocatalyst. So that is what is called as a ribozyme. Okay. So the major function, as I said, the majorly it helps in the formation of the ribosomes, and also it helps in the attachment of mRNA and tRNA to the surface, or binding of mRNA and tRNA to the surface of ribosome. So that is the major functions of the rRNA or the ribosomal RNA. Okay. Then the next concept is about criteria for the genetic material, or the characters of a genetic material, or the criteria for a molecule to select as a hereditary material or a genetic material. Okay, criteria for genetic material or a character of a genetic material. What are the major characters for a genetic material, or what the characters where that makes that molecule to select as a genetic material? So there are the molecules, you know that the RNA and DNA, both are the nucleic acids, no doubt. Okay, so which are found in all living organisms. Okay, so but exception for viruses, some viruses are having DNA and some of them they are having RNA as a genetic material, isn't it? So there are evidences that RNA can also act as a genetic material, but in viruses, some viruses, not in all viruses, some viruses. Okay, but among it is negligible. When compare the percentage, it is very negligible, no? So very negligible amount of the organisms, we cannot consider them as true organisms, but even though they exhibit some living properties, very negligible amount they have RNA as a genetic material. But when compared with the largest number, majority of the organism, 99.99999% of organism, they have DNA as a genetic material. Why? Because the DNA is having such properties, those properties that makes the DNA elect over as a genetic material over RNA and proteins. Okay, so then it should have some speciality, no? It should have some that kind of nature or that kind of characters, no? Because of that, it is elected over RNA as a genetic material over a very long period of time, over millions and billions of years of time, isn't it? So when the life has originated, by that time also the DNA is elected or selected as a genetic material. So from now itself, in future also, it will be the genetic material, because of the nature of the DNA is like that, because of its high stability and less chemical reactivity, the structure of the DNA, all those things that makes DNA more stable, and where it can where it can transfer the character from one generation to another generation. Okay, so that's why DNA is considered as a genetic material. So let us look into some properties, okay, few properties why it is elected or selected as a genetic material. Okay. So, DNA is selected, or any material to be selected as a genetic material, it should have some following characters, or basic characters it should have. One is the self-replication ability. So, self-replication ability, you compare with these two molecules, RNA and DNA. Okay. So, where among RNA and DNA, which among the molecule is having self-replication ability? That is DNA. Okay. Because of that only, see, this is a very important mechanism, that is self-replication. So see, without this replication, there is no chances of transfer of DNA to the next generation or to the daughter cells, isn't it? So when the life has evolved, yavaga life evolution agittu, allinda illivargunu DNA in all the living forms that get transferred, isn't it? So that is mainly because of the duplication of the DNA or the replication of the DNA. So it goes on doubling once and every cell division. Okay, so once the cell division takes place, always DNA that doubles, and equal amount of DNA that get distributed to two daughter cells, isn't it? So that property is lacks in RNA, the self-replication ability that is found in DNA. That is a major character to consider this as a hereditary material, that is self-replication, isn't it? So where DNA is able to synthesize itself, and also the DNA is able to synthesize the RNA. Okay, then that is self-replication ability. So another thing, DNA is chemically less reactive. DNA is chemically less reactive. So why this chemical less reactivity is observed in DNA? That is mainly because of absence of OH in deoxyribose sugar. Absence of OH in the second carbon atom of deoxyribose sugar. Okay. So I said this, the OH group in deoxyribose sugar is absent. That's why the sugar is named as deoxy, isn't it? So where the OH has been removed. The removal of OH from the second carbon atom of the deoxyribose sugar, that makes the DNA chemically less reactive. You know that this is a highly reacting group, the OH, especially the oxygen found in this is highly reactive. But when it is removed from that sugar becomes a deoxyribose sugar, isn't it? So because of the absence of the OH group in the DNA, especially in the pentose sugar found in the DNA, that makes DNA chemically less reactive. Okay, and the next property is DNA is structurally more stable. It is structurally more stable. See, this is mainly because of base pairing, the nature of base pairing found in DNA. Know that DNA is a double-stranded molecule, both the strands which are complementary to each other and they are coiled in right-handed direction, isn't it? So where the amount of purine is equal to amount of pyrimidines. So where that nature of DNA, the double-stranded nature or double helical nature of DNA, and mainly the complementarity of the bases which are found in the two strands of DNA, the complementary bases which exist in both the strands of DNA, that makes DNA structurally more stable, but that is not seen in RNA. So where it cannot form the double helical like structure, only it forms double helix when it got the complementary bases, then only it can form the double helix. But until and unless if it does not got any complementary bases, RNA remains as single strand. It can remain as single strand. Okay, so because of the complementarity of the bases which are found in the two strands of DNA, that makes the DNA structurally more stable. So hence DNA is structurally more stable than or over RNA. Okay. So then, and also the structural stability that can be seen with an evidence with the Griffiths experiment. You know that in Griffiths experiment he heat kill the bacteria, the S type of bacteria, isn't it? The heating causes the killing of bacteria. So though the bacterial cells were killed, but the DNA found inside the bacterial cells, it is not destroyed. It means once upon the DNA is heated, where the two strands of DNA that get separated, but once they got the normal condition, once the temperature becomes normal, the two strands again they coil each other, they rebound each other. Okay, so that is the stability, and also because of the stability, so we can isolate the DNA from fossils and also from mummies. Okay, there are some evidences so where the DNA has been isolated from those. Okay, so it can thrive for many long years. That's why DNA is more stable when compared to the RNA. Okay, so that is the structural stability of DNA. And another thing, any molecule to select as a hereditary material, that should give slow scope for changes. Slow scope for changes means it should give very slow scope for mutations. You know what is mutations? The spontaneous heritable changes which takes place in the gene or in the genetic material, that is what is called as a mutation, isn't it? So a molecule to be considered as a hereditary material or a genetic material, it should give a slow scope for changes. It means for mutations. But you compare with the RNA, especially those viruses which are having RNA, they rapidly mutate. The rate of mutation is very high in RNA viruses. Okay, and even in other RNA containing organisms or viroids, isn't it? So, but especially the viruses, where we can see very rapid rate of mutation. That's why it is very difficult to design a antiviral drug, because once you design one particular drug, one particular chemical compound, once you apply on the viruses or once you use against these viruses, it readily mutates. It can changes its form, its structure will changes. Then you have to design another drug. It is a very difficult task to design an antiviral drug. That's why no effective drug till today that can eradicate the HIV, isn't it? HIV eradicate ಮಾಡಂತ drug effective ಆಗಿ eradicate ಮಾಡಂತದ್ದು ಯಾವುದು ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದುವರೆಗೂ. ಯಾಕೆ? Mainly because it is an RNA virus. The RNA that readily mutates, that readily undergoes changes. Okay, so because of these reasons, those organisms, if they are having RNA as a genetic material, so that can undergo rapid changes and they can rapidly evolve and they have shorter lifespan. But that is not the case in DNA. So where it will give a very slow scope for changes, not the sudden, immediate or rapid changes, that doesn't take place. So that's what is the evidence for this one. So as we age, our nature of the DNA, that doesn't change. or any organism, it doesn't change and it doesn't become any other new creature, isn't it? Suddenly evolution ಆಗಲ್ಲ, suddenly new creature ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಏಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ನಮಗೆ, ಏಜ್ ಆದಂಗೆ ಸಡನ್ಲಿ ಡಿ ಎನ್ ಎನಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯೂಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಸಡನ್ಲಿ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಯಾವುದೋ ಹೊಸ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೊಸ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ see in RNA viruses where they readily they mutating, they changing, okay, so that's why they have very shorter lifespan, but that is not the case in DNA. So it will give very slow scope for mutations or for changes, okay. So that is the another criteria for a molecule to select as a genetic material, okay. So then the other thing is the presence of thymine in DNA. You know that thymine, a pyrimidine group that is found in DNA, not in RNA. So the presence of thymine in DNA, that also gives more stability to DNA when compared with the uracil. The presence of thymine. You know that RNA consists of uracil. So if it is not so, then there is no difference between DNA and RNA, isn't it? So where only one base is different in RNA, that is uracil is found in RNA, whereas thymine is found in DNA. So the presence of thymine in DNA, that also gives extra stability for DNA when compared with the uracil. And RNA is more labile molecule. It is chemically more reactive, structurally less stable. RNA, chemically it is more reactive, that is mainly because of the presence of OH in the pentose sugar, that is ribose sugar. Hence it is chemically more reactive. It is thermolabile, or it is very labile molecule. It can easily degrade it, okay, by means of any kind of enzymes or anything. RNA can be easily degraded, but not the DNA, okay. So hence RNA cannot be selected as a genetic material. Okay, so the presence of thymine in DNA, that also confers extra stability for DNA. Okay, so then, so another evidence is we can see among the two strands of DNA, one strand of DNA that store the genetic information. One strand of DNA that will store the genetic information. It will store the genetic information, and that strand is what is called as the sense strand. That is what is called as the sense strand. You know there are two strands in DNA. Among those two strands, one of the strand is called as a sense strand. Sense, it means it will store the genetic information. Sense strand, one strand is called as sense strand. And the other strand means the complementary. The other strand is what is called as anti-sense strand. Anti-sense strand. So this will forms, this will transcribes. This will transcribe, and this undergone transcription. It will transcribes an mRNA. It means it transfers the message to an mRNA. Okay, the mRNA, the sequences of bases which are found in the mRNA and the sequences of bases which are found in the sense strand of DNA, which both are same. It means the information found in the sense strand of DNA, it is same as that of mRNA, or the information found in the mRNA, vice versa, it is same as that of DNA. It means suppose a message is like this: A, C, C, T, G, G. A message is like this on the DNA. Okay, so there are 6 bases can be seen here. You think this one has a sense strand, this one has a sense strand. What is the complementary for this one is, in place of A there will be T, that is 90. In place of C there will be T. In place of C again there will be T. Again in place of T there is an A. In place of G there is a C, and again there is a C, isn't it? This is a complementary strand. So you look into the this complementary strand of DNA, so that will force an mRNA. It means it can act as a template strand. The complementary strand, that is the anti-sense strand, that can act as a template strand for the synthesis of mRNA. Iden madutte template agi act madutte mRNA synthesis ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಯಾವುದು the anti-sense strand of DNA, okay, can act as a template strand. So where once the mRNA is synthesized by this, even the mRNA synthesis ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ, so the mRNA is similar to DNA. The mRNA which is very most similar, or it is similar to the coding strand of DNA or the sense strand of DNA. So both of them which are similar. So why it happens, like see here, in place of suppose if this codes for mRNA, in place of T there will be an uracil here. So then in place of G there will be a C. Okay, so there is not, it is adenine. Okay, sorry, it is adenine. In place of T there will be an adenine, C. In place of G it will be C. In place of G it will be C. Again in place of G it will be C. Again in place of A there is no thymine. Remember, in RNA there will be an uracil. Again in place of C it will be G. Again in place of C it will be G. See, it is exactly similar what to the sense strand of DNA. The mRNA is exactly similar except for thymine. Except for thymine, it is exactly similar to the DNA. Andre, the genetic information which is found in the DNA, that is what is called as the sense strand. So that get transferred to an mRNA molecule. And the other strand is what is called as an antisense strand, and this antisense strand can act as a template for the synthesis of mRNA. Okay, so these changes are the characters, are the criteria for a molecule to select as a genetic material. Okay, so this is very important for 3 marks. It has asked twice or thrice in the examination. Remember these points. Okay, criteria for a genetic material. So then another important concept, that is about the central dogma of molecular biology. Central dogma of molecular biology. Okay, so this is nothing but the basic principle, or just like the basic theme. So where it is nothing but the unidirectional flow of genetic information, from DNA to mRNA and from mRNA to protein. The unidirectional flow of genetic information from DNA to mRNA and from mRNA to protein. So in one way the genetic information is flowing. It means the genetic information found in the DNA that get transferred to mRNA, and by that mRNA the protein is synthesized. So that is what is called central dogma of molecular biology, and it was given by Francis Crick. Okay, so see here, Francis Crick has given the central dogma. So that is like this: DNA that will synthesizes an mRNA molecule. DNA will produces an mRNA molecule, and by this mRNA the protein is synthesized. See, the formation of mRNA from DNA, this is what is called as, the process is what is called as transcription. The process of formation of mRNA from DNA, the process is what is called as transcription, and the process by which the mRNA get converted into protein, that is what is called as translation. See, the process by which the mRNA is produced by DNA is what is called transcription, and the process by which the mRNA get converted into a protein, that is what is called as translation. These are the two important mechanisms. So especially the transcription is the first step in the protein synthesis, and translation is the second step. Okay, so the coded information is get transferred to an mRNA. I said among the two strands of DNA, one is a sense strand that stores the genetic information, and the another one is antisense strand that acts as a template for the synthesis of mRNA. So where the process by which the mRNA is synthesized from DNA, that mechanism is what is called as transcription, and where the mRNA get converted into a polypeptide chain, that mechanism is what is called as a translation. Andre, by seeing the message found on the mRNA, the tRNA that will add the corresponding amino acids, and all those amino acids they binds together and forming a protein molecule. Okay, so that is according to the message that is found on the mRNA. Okay, and that message is, that process is what is called as translation. And you know that the DNA, as we said, it is having the self replication ability. It is having the ability to synthesize its own copies. That mechanism is what is called as replication. So then you are going to study the major concepts like replication, transcription and translation. These are the three major concepts. So DNA, it can synthesize its own copies. That mechanism is what is called replication. Then RNA is synthesized by DNA. The process is what is named as transcription. And whereas the proteins are synthesized by using the message found on the mRNA, that process is what is called as translation. Okay, so this is a central, what is known as central dogma or basic theme or principle of molecular biology. Okay, so where that was first given by Francis Crick. You can see here only the unidirectional flow of information from DNA to mRNA, from the mRNA the protein is synthesized. Okay, in a one direction. So sometimes what happens, we can write like this. This is what is called as central dogma reverse. Central dogma reverse. That in case of the reverse transcription, you heard the mechanism, reverse transcription. In case of reverse transcription, so where there is a possibility that RNA that can convert it into DNA. So in case of, especially in case of retroviruses, RNA viruses, for example in HIV virus. So where that is having an enzyme, what is called reverse transcriptase. The enzyme is able to convert the segments of RNA into DNA. This is a rare case I am telling about. Rare means only in case of retroviruses. This is the normal one. The DNA to mRNA, mRNA protein. This is normal central dogma of molecular biology. But if this happens, like RNA get converted into DNA, in case of the viruses, once they enter into the host cell, so where they get activated, where the viral RNA molecule that get converted into DNA, viral DNA, so that process is what is called reverse transcription. So then it can be written like this: central dogma reverse. The reverse of transcription that takes place means DNA synthesized by mRNAs get converted into DNA. Okay, so that is reverse, central dogma reverse, given by Temin and Baltimore. Okay, so they identified the mechanism what is called as reverse transcription. Okay, so this is about the central dogma of molecular biology. So where unidirectional flow of genetic information from DNA to RNA, from RNA to protein. Okay, so in next or in upcoming classes, we will discuss about the concepts of replication, transcription and translation. Okay. Okay, so in next video, I explain about the concept of DNA replication and the experimental evidences for DNA replication. Okay, thank you.